Joining us now via the phone is Newsmax Chief Washington Correspondent Ron Kessler. Ron's latest book, The Secrets of the FBI, hits bookstores on August 2nd. And Ron, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, John Edwards indicted Friday and facing charges. He used campaign funds to cover up his affair with a campaign aide, Rielle Hunter, during the 2008 presidential election. Ron, tell us exactly what investigators are focusing on.
Focusing on violation of campaign finance laws and possible conspiracy to cover this up because two individuals gave money to John Edwards for the purpose of covering up the affair, providing living expenses for his mistress. And the issue is this a gift, which is what Edwards would claim, or was this actually campaign finance money, which should have been reported? And that's the issue at hand.
Ron, it's been reported that Edwards, who is a single father, was considering a plea deal. Why do you think plea negotiations did not produce an agreement?
Well, I'm sure the prosecution was insisting on a good, stiff jail term. I'm thinking at least 8 years. And Edwards, thinking that he's the silver-tongued lawyer that he is, thinks he can get out of it and thinks he can convince the jury that he didn't do it. The fact that this is a federal prosecution, the FBI is involved, tells me, as well as the fact that the investigation's gone on for over 2 years before the grand jury, that they do have a very strong case, because it's really rare when federal prosecution is brought and the person is found not guilty.
So how do you think John Edwards will come out of this, and what are his legal options at this point?
I think Edwards is going to jail, and I'm sure it's something that he can't visualize. I think he lives in a different world, a world of arrogance, and just simply doesn't get that he's in serious trouble, and that's why he didn't agree to a plea agreement.
Well, it has been a scandal-ridden week for Democrats after that lewd photo was sent from the Twitter account of Congressman Weiner from New York. Now we have the Edwards indictment. What do you see as the fallout for Democrats here, and does it impact them in 2012?
It certainly tarnishes the Democratic brand, especially in the case of Edwards, who ran for vice president. But I think we all realize that that the Democrats are not the only ones who engage in this sort of activity. Republicans are beat up more over it when they engage in this sort of thing, because they do stand for family values. But it comes down to arrogance. It comes down to stupidity, and it, I think, tells us that when we're electing politicians, and particularly looking at presidential candidates, we need to look at character as well as what they say on TV, who's ahead, who's behind. That's very important, and in the end, character is what we're all about.
Ron, the Edwards indictment is the latest on a long list of political scandals to come out of Washington. We have had the scandals involving David Vitter, John Ensign, Mark Foley, Bob Livingston, Congressman Weiner. We could go on. Is there a values disconnect between those inside and outside the Beltway?
Well, certainly people who get into power, whether it's as a CEO of a company or whether it's as a member of Congress or a president, they tend to start thinking that they're better than anybody else, that they're above the law, unless they're very well-grounded. And that's, again, why we need to look at character and people who do show signs of having good values. In this case, this probably would never have come out except for the National Enquirer. So it shows the importance of the press in keeping these people honest. But in the end, the moral of the story, I think, is look at character, look at track record. Don't necessarily look at who's ahead, who's behind, whether they smile well on TV and how their hair is parted, or even what kind of hair they have. In the case of Donald Trump, that's what we look at when we hire anybody, when we choose a friend, and I think we should be looking at that in the case of politicians as well.
Ron, last question real quickly. Do scandals like the Edwards scandal contribute to the relatively low approval ratings that voters give lawmakers in Washington?
Clearly, that is part of what people are upset about when they think of Washington insiders. But I think more importantly, because really the number of people who do get in these scandals is very small, the percentage is very small. More importantly, people think of just not paying attention to their needs, not paying attention to the problems, feathering their own nests. Those are the things that really upset people, and that's why we have the Tea Party movement and a lot of other efforts to unseat incumbents.
All right, Newsmax Chief Washington Correspondent Ron Kessler, thank you.
Thank you.